Hello, friends. Welcome back to this career conversation series where I've been sharing my mentoring counseling experiences with my mentee students and parents. In this episode, I would like to share an interesting experience as always. So, this is a girl who's in 10th grade, middle of 10th grade, and she came up with both mother and father for this session. In fact, I visited one of the schools. This is more in a school setup. Okay, and the primary objective of the conversation, this conversation, is basically to make sure that the child has a career destination, number one, and number two, towards the destination, what are the paths or streams that a child should consider after 10th grade, right? Or rather, I would say it this way as a thumb rule: for every student and a parent, there are two questions that will be bothering them when the child is in 10th grade. By the time they complete the 10th grade, every parent and child would aspire to score high in their academic 10th grade board exams. And number two, by the time they get towards the end of 10th grade, they should have made their decision on what stream or what group they're going to choose in their plus two or intermediate. Of course, in line to the career destination or to their career aspiration, right? These are the two key questions that needs to be answered: scoring well in the board exams and what stream or group that the child had to choose after 10th grade, right? So the conversation in this with this child is more focused to answer those two. One, the academic score which the school will take care. It is their job. It is not my job as a mentor or as a counselor. But whereas when it comes to the which group, which stream after 10th grade, is it physics, chemistry, maths as a stream, or biology, physics, chemistry, or commerce without maths or with maths, or humanities? What is that stream that the child could choose based on the aspiration? So I started the conversation. I had the background of doing a personality assessment, multiple intelligence assessment, or the stream selection assessment, a short assessment. These are the psychometric assessments. So I have all that information. So based on that, I've initiated the conversation with the parent and the child, both the parents in fact. So the conversation went for about 20-25 minutes. I've been explaining what suits well to the child, and apparently the child has not made up her mind yet on what the career destination that she is looking for. She had some thoughts in mind. The discussion went on, and the mother and the child both were little involved in the conversation, but the father was like sitting tight and is been keenly observing me and what I've been talking. So about after 20-25 minutes, the father started opening up, saying that, "Sir, looks like you have a lot of information, a lot of data points that you've shared, and I'm glad you shared that. I'm not aware of that these assessments are actually going to help her. Neither I was told by her, or nor I did ask her. So glad that now you are explaining. I'll do take a look at those assessments, the outcome of that assessments, which will help her. And it looks like she's also very keen in considering that. So I'm happy with it. But I have a very basic question to you. You have had about almost 25 minutes of conversation with my daughter. You have been interacting there. By now, were you able to make out, based on the interaction with that young girl, my daughter, by now, were you able to make out what career suits her? I was a little puzzled with the question. I asked, "Sir, what do you mean by that?" Then he said, by looking at the face of this young girl, can't you make out what career suits her? By looking at the body language, by looking at the face, by looking into the eyes of this child, can't you make out what career suits her or what she can accomplish? Well, that's an interesting question, which so far I have not faced that question. Then I was was gathering my thoughts to answer this parent, but the parent went on explaining. He said, "As a parent, I can tell my child what works for her, what doesn't work for her. And similarly, I can look at any child and figure out, by looking at the face, by looking at the body language, by having an eye contact, I can figure out what works well, what doesn't work well for that child." Well, for a moment there was a thought lingering in my mind that okay, this parent is driving me towards face reading or a fortune telling, precisely face reading. Then I thought, sir, by looking at the face, I don't think that's a right way to look at. Probably you can see how genuine, how involved the person is in the conversation, how genuinely the person is talking about his or her interest to that extent. But making a career choice, I'm not too sure if this is going to work out. Face reading is what you're seeing. Not necessarily titled it as a face reading, but it is driving towards that point. Your facial, expressions, how your nose, eyes, your eyebrows, and all that, how your face is. The face reading is a separate topic, isn't it? Though that's not the point. I want to bring in or highlight in. This is what a parent has challenged me. Then I had to explain him. Largely I had to spend another half an hour explaining him, sir. You need to look at the personality of the child, the abilities of the child, the interests of the child, and your expectations as a family, as a parent, and their aspirations, your affordability, viability, reachability. Likewise, there are many factors that needs to be taken into account when you make a career choice, when you fix upon a destination, and then you start planning for your the destination. So that's how I have explained. But if you are expecting me to give my opinion or my perception, which is personal to me, which may not sound as an unbiased view, I am basing my recommendations or my guidance is based on certain assessments after having a dialogue with the child and figuring out the interest and the genuinity involvement by the child. But not my opinion. I am here to give you an unbiased information as much as possible. I'll do my best to be unbiased. I will keep away my emotions and my preferences or my perceptions. That's the motto with which I work with children and parents. I cannot give my opinion, my preferences, but rather based on certain platform, based on certain assessments as we do. Then this parent started seeing point in what I've been talking about. He's been thinking that a career decision could be made by reading a face of the child, by reading the body language of a child. Maybe you can get some clue, you can get certain clues about the child, about the suitability, how the way the child behaves or the child conducts him or herself. That may be true. I'm not completely ruling out or denying, but that cannot be a factor. In fact, my friends, the reason for me to bring up this experience, this is more, some of my fellow counselors and mentors who watch this or listen to this series of episode, they would resonate with it. So you cannot base a career decision based on face reading or based on fortune telling, palmistry and all. That's not a fair way to look at it. They are meant for a different purposes altogether, isn't it? But yes, probably there could be some relative contextual discussion at some point. So you cannot face read and make a career decision largely. That's the point I want to drive. So if some of you or any of you have been thinking in those lines, but you can definitely judge the genuinity, the involvement of a person to a larger extent. But of course, you need to be having that professional skill to do so, not just, intuitively you could do it. But well, as always, this has to be based on a specific platform, the career guidance and planning has to be based on considering various parameters based on a platform. It has to be gone in a structured way and it has to be an unbiased approach, my friends. So that is an interesting experience which I've come across in the recent past. I thought it would add value to your thought process, to your perception. If you're thinking on those lines, you can draw parallels, you can take clues however you want. I will leave it to you. I don't want to influence you or impose anything on you, to my viewers and listeners. And I hope that that experience was of your interest. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll come back with another interesting experience sometime soon. Until then, do take care. Thank you for listening and watching.